Welcome to Group 1's Labor Leader Report. Group 1 members are as follows: Latasha Austin, Lisa Carter, Latwanda Cave, and Gracia Clark. Greetings, everyone. Group 1 presents Cesar Chavez, a devoted husband, farm worker, and an advocate for farm worker causes that would allow them to hold elections in the fields and vote for union representation. We follow his long journey and his fight for equity for those who labored in America's most despicable working and living conditions and the impact that his contributions made to labor relations in America. Cesario Estrada Chavez was born in Yuma, Arizona on March 31st, 1927. As a young boy growing up, Chavez and his family toiled many long hours in the fields as migrant farm workers. As he grew older, it was this very lifestyle that caused Caesar to dedicate his life to improving the treatment, pay, and working conditions for farm workers. He became to learn all too well the hardships that farm workers faced. In 1948, Chavez married Helen Favela, and from their union came 8 children. Chavez joined the Community Service Organization in 1952 in San Jose, California. He became an organizer in the Mexican American Organization. He spearheaded voter registration drives and fought racial and economic discrimination. In 1958, Chavez became executive director of the CSO. He founded the National Farm Workers Association in 1962 in Delano, California, with labor leader Dolores Huerta. This organization was dedicated to the rights of migrant workers, including insurance, collective bargaining, and minimum wage. In 1965, the NFWA joins the Agricultural Workers Organizing Committee, who were striking against the grape growers in Delano. This is the beginning of a 5-year strike that receives a lot of national attention. Boycotts, picketing, marches, and strikes were advocated during the strike. The strikers marched 250 miles in 1966 to California's capital. Once there, they present their list of demands. Several grape companies agreed to sign contracts with the union. These were the first contracts for American farm workers. A boycott of the table grape growers, which was known as La Causa in 1968. But by the end of this boycott in 1970, 17 million Americans supported it. Many were political and civil rights leaders. Also in 1970, the UFW signed a contract with most of the California grape growers, which ended the strike. A lettuce boycott was then organized. The California Labor Relations Act goes into effect in 1975. This act allowed the workers the right to collective bargaining and boycotting. Chavez undertakes a 36-day fast to call attention to health hazards that are faced by farm workers and their children due to pesticides used in 1988. Chavez dies on April 23, 1933. In 1994, Chavez was awarded the Medal of Freedom by President Bill Clinton, and in 2000, California establishes a state holiday on his birthday in honor of Cesar Chavez. Cesar Chavez was a voice for poor people who had no voice, yet worked so hard in the agricultural fields of America. He promised those whom he rendered himself as a spokesperson for to join the struggle for justice in the fields. Throughout this struggle, Chavez knew that power for poor people would only come if they had a voice by way of registering to vote and become a political power bloc. As the first California Service Organization volunteer and later director, Chavez helped 30,000 Mexican Americans to obtain their citizenship. Chavez received critical organized labor supporters among unions inside and outside of the United States that aided in leveraging resources needed to boycott and stop the grape shipments. His movement attracted such political support at that time. Senator Robert Kennedy, who provided essential strength for the strike and participating in the picket line. Additionally, he gathered support of white-collar Mexican-American Political Association, enhancing the political influence he already acquired. By the late 1970s, his tactics forced growers to recognize the UFW as the bargaining agent for 50,000 field workers in California, Texas, Arizona, and Florida. During Chavez's tenure serving people, his movement inspired people across the nations, influencing legislation and growers to raise salaries and improve the working conditions for farm workers. Leadership, a nonviolence approach. As former U.S. President John F. Kennedy quoted, "Your old men will dream dreams, your young men will see visions," referring to Cesar E. Chavez's leadership and his desired movement. Chavez embraced historic strategies and tactics implemented by renowned leaders such as Mahatma Gandhi and Dr. Martin L. King Jr. As a commitment of Chavez's nonviolent approach, he received a telegram from Dr. Martin Luther King stating, "I am deeply moved by your courage and fasting as your personal sacrifice for justice through nonviolence. Your past and present commitment is eloquent testimony to the constructive power of nonviolent action and the destructive impotence of violent reprisal. Your stand is a living example of the Gandhian tradition with its great force for social progress and its healing spiritual powers." Chavez emphasized the importance of nonviolent strikes and boycotts to gain historical victories. After the death of three farm workers, Chavez canceled the strike and established a different nonviolent tactic, the boycott. Chavez applied boycott strategies to major labor management disputes and gained millions of supporters, boycotting grapes and other products. In addition, he used hunger strikes and fasted to bring attention to the violence against the striking farm workers and the increasing violence within the union. Chavez's leadership and cause drew the support of many church organizations, university, liberal student activists, as well as civil rights volunteers. They all joined his nonviolent movement. His cause crossed racial and economic barriers. Theory, concept. California Agricultural Labor Relations Act of 1975's purpose was to do the following: to guarantee certain rights to California farm workers, to ensure peace in the agricultural fields by guaranteeing justice for all agricultural workers and stability in labor relations, and to encourage and protect the right of farm workers. A theory linked to Cesar Chavez would be the California Agricultural Labor Relations Act of 1975. Chavez pressured Governor Jerry Brown to support a farm labor law that would recognize the special circumstances of the migrant workers. The act would reinforce to guarantee certain rights to Californian farm workers. The act is to ensure peace in the agricultural fields by guaranteeing justice for all agricultural workers and promote stability within labor relations. He was quoted saying, "The fight is never about grapes or lettuce. It is always about people." A concept related to Cesar Chavez is employee rights and job rights, something he fought long for. These rights included in union agreements, such as just cause for discipline and discharge, seniority rights, compensation, and the right to a fair hearing for grievance procedures. Job rights pertains to job holders being entitled to a certain wage base based on the position in which they are in. Job rights also dictate certain tasks that must be completed within a certain bargaining unit and by a certain job. This brings an obligation of job standard fulfillment to life. These two major components of traditional U.S. union contracts are in line with what Cesar Chavez was trying to accomplish. On April the 23rd, in 1993, Chavez died while sleeping during a business trip in San Luis, Arizona, while serving with the UFW. Chavez's funeral was one of the largest of any labor leader in the history of the United States, with more than 50,000 mourners that came to honor him. Farm workers, family members, friends, and union staff workers took turns standing vigil over the body of the respected leader. He was indeed well known and supported by many. Various celebrities attended the funeral, whom had labored with him throughout his many years of struggling to better the lives of farm workers. Chavez is buried at the National Chavez Center on the headquarters campus of the United Farm Workers of America. Additionally, he received belated full military honors from the U.S. Navy at his graveside on April the 23rd, 2015, which marked the 22nd anniversary of his death. Today, March 31st, Chavez's birthday, is a state holiday in California and 7 other states, and there are ongoing efforts to make it a national holiday.